Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In just 9 days, the Taliban took control of every major city except Kabul.
Most people will likely remember why it started.
And the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
A demand to the Taliban, turn over Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda, unanswered. A few weeks later, a massive bombing campaign along with a small force of around 1,000 Special Forces soldiers and CIA agents, combined with the Northern Alliance in Afghanistan. And the Taliban fell within months, the U.S. along with its of lessons learned.
We know this from not only intelligence, but from the history of military conflict in Afghanistan. It's been one of initial success, followed by long years of floundering and ultimate failure. We're not going to repeat that mistake.
Critics say that's exactly what happened as the U.S. turned more attention to the war in Iraq. The U.S. announced an end to major combat operations in Afghanistan in 2003. A constitution was written, elections followed, a new president, a new legislature, with women taking positions of power. But as the years passed, cracks in the coalition. And as the Taliban fought back and civilian casualties mounted along with that of the armed forces, opinion turned. A new U.S. president had to make a decision, go bigger or go home.
Our overarching goal remains the same.
U.S. President Barack Obama decided to send an additional 17,000 troops, then 30,000 more. By 2010, around 100,000 U.S. troops would be in Afghanistan. In May of 2011, Osama bin Laden was found and killed in Pakistan, but the war continued. Obama promised to bring most U.S. troops home by the end of 2016, and then a new U.S. president took over.
A hasty withdrawal would create a vacuum that terrorists, including ISIS and al-Qaeda, would instantly fill.
President Trump announced an open-ended deployment, but eventually signed a deal with the Taliban. If they promised to keep out terrorist groups and not attack U.S. troops, a full withdrawal would happen by May of 2021. But then yet another new U.S. president was sworn in. And President Joe Biden decided to keep the deal and leave only a small troop presence. He said the Taliban would not immediately take over. He was wrong, sending in more than 5,000 troops to hastily evacuate the embassy. Now growing questions of what will happen to the women and girls of Afghanistan. 20 years of bloodshed and battles, of promises and of unimaginable pain, of encouraging signs and setbacks, 2 decades of war, and still questions of what was won amid so much that was lost. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Washington.
After 20 years, it was a hostile departure for the United States from its Kabul embassy. As the Taliban reached the city limits, helicopters ferried staff to Kabul International Airport. Those who remained burned sensitive documents, while Black Hawks and Apache helicopters circled the capital, monitoring for Taliban fighters on the ground. As they released heat flares over the green zone, President Ashraf Ghani was recording what would be his final statement. He and his core team fled the country shortly after.
There is a clear need that the National Directorate of Security, alongside the police and the Afghan army, take responsibility for the security of all citizens. I have asked the Defense Minister and the Interior Minister to convey that message. Anyone who's disturbing the law and order or thinks of looting should be confronted with full force.
Before Ghani left Kabul, the Afghan government had been negotiating with the Taliban for a political settlement, but its leverage had weakened with every loss on the battlefield. In just 9 days, the Taliban took control of every major city except Kabul. By Sunday morning, its fighters surrounded the capital, holding districts inside Kabul province.
So it is a popular uprising, and all the provinces are with us, so they should understand and know the ground realities and surrender to submit themselves to the will of the people. There will be a government which will be acceptable to all Afghans.
As the Taliban presence built around the outskirts of Kabul, the armed group's military commission sent this message to its fighters.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Congratulations to you all, but no one should enter Kabul. You do not have permission to enter. If someone enters, you cannot plead ignorance. Yet, by sunset, the Taliban flag was raised inside Kabul city. Taliban fighters were seen driving around on motorbikes, in pickup trucks and Humvees, greeting the people. Afghanistan's Interior Ministry carried on undeterred, stating it remains in charge of the city's security.
The security of the city is guaranteed and it is not going to be attacked. The agreement is that there is going to be a peaceful transfer of power to a transitional government. Do not be influenced by any propaganda. Kabul is safe, rest assured. There will not be any problem in Kabul.
But after the Taliban's rapid march across Afghanistan, that was not a chance the US, or it would seem President Ghani, was willing to take. Charlotte Ballas, Al Jazeera, Kabul.